welcome to death row.
Like we always do about this time.
I'm gonna fight your fucking ass!
You don't got, you're playing touch butt with that dork in the park.
There's a little snake in the grass.
Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
No fucking Jesus, people! I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody!
Hey, pussy, are you still there?
I'm back.
Who the fuck is that guy? Break out the red panties. We're rich, baby.
I would like to introduce...
Welcome to the MMAforMoney show, episode 68. In the show, we review UFC Vegas 16, Hermanson versus Victorious. That was the final fight that actually happened. And preview UFC 256, Figueiredo versus Moreno. That might sound super familiar. Well, both of them fought about 20 days ago. So there you go. I am Bob Boss, your favorite garage man at NBA City Mind here with Real Mike, Mako here for at No Coach Just Win, and Mikey Gilman at Mikey Gills. That's Gills with a Z. Also follow the show on Twitter at MMAforMoney show. Real Mike, how are you doing?
I'm doing absolutely amazing, man. Stoked to be here to talk about some UFC after dominating last week's event. Can't be, happier to be with my two best friends.
Mikey Gills, how's life single-handedly making your region full of Christmas cheer with all the gifts you're delivering?
I'm the Santa Claus of Bethesda, Maryland. That's what they call me.
That's what I heard.
I got my first Christmas tip. A lady gave me her phone number in it. That's a true story. So things are looking up. Things are looking up.
It's always good for the first time that happens to you. It makes you feel nice. After a few more, it starts to get old. And you're just like, okay, but seriously, please stop. Like this is getting awkward. Not that I know from experience or
yeah, no. I just blanked out there. Sorry, I was just like I had the imagination, like just whatever.
That's fine. That's fine. Well, normally right now we talk about how we're live. We're live. But before I fully go into it, I just gotta I'm talking about how you guys are. And I would tell you how I am, but I'm always doing good. But I want to tell you how Mr. Primetime is doing good. Mr. The actual MMAforMoney there on Twitter if you want to go there. Mr. Primetime is living up to his name this week. He went 3-0 plus 5 units on 1 and 2 unit wagers for Sunday Night Football in both games of Monday Night Football. All eyes are on him tonight as he tries to stay perfect on Primetime and complete the Week 13 Primetime sweep. All those evidence are there. And we can go back to it. He won a two-way teaser on Washington plus 12.5 and the under 49 on the Pittsburgh-Washington game. He had a two-way teaser for plus 6.5 for Buffalo, plus 8.5 and the over 42.5 in that game. He had the over in the Buffalo versus 49ers game. And we have a two-way teaser going on tonight to see if he can complete the sweep. So basically, again, if you're not putting your money on that, man, you're not making money. Well, we are here live right now on Twitch, Periscope, and YouTube. Please join us in the chat to give us questions. We always appreciate those. You can find the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast Podcasts, or just the RSS feed. I already said that you were live there on YouTube, but you also subscribe to YouTube and like YouTube and comment on YouTube. And not just if you're a crazy Russian bot that is saying inappropriate things on there. I mean, we appreciate those too. And that's really what's been really hopping. But actual participation from other people is great too, not just during the show, but after the fact. We appreciate those too. So subscribe, never miss a show. Like, comment, share, all those wonderful, wonderful things. And the token phrase, smash the like button. Yes, I actually had to say it for once because some of you need to start. We're going to go right into UFC Vegas 16, Hermanson versus Latore. I have Latore, sorry. Big mistake on my part. Vittori. I don't know. Latore is like his, I don't know, Sicilian brother that not everyone like. I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole. We're right here. We're going to do quick results. We're going to go back on a few, the bets that actually happened, the ones that didn't. Can't necessarily do a DraftKings review because obviously things imploded and we will go to Mikey Gills for that. So we'll really review as much as like a him bearing his grievances. And we'll obviously have to hit so many finishes that happened. This and the amazing performance from Marvin Vettori. So we'll get there, but I just want to read through the results of what happened. So Louis Smolka, minus 135. Got the round 2 TKO ground and pound against Jose Alberto Quinones. Gabriel Benitez got a KO TKO knee to the body. It was almost like he was throwing a kick and just happened to land with the knee. Those ones are the most vicious because there's the most torque behind those. Ilia Topuria got a TKO punches in the first round. Jimmy Flicks versus Cody Durden did not happen. Well, and one quick thing, because I need to take a little diatribe here, and I want you guys to know that I've had the time of my life. And I know I felt like this before. And yes, I swear it's the truth. And I owe it all to you. And that person I owe it to is Jordan Levitt, because not only did he slam KO Matt Wyman in 20 seconds to another dimension, but then he subsequently decided to do the Dirty Dancing leap catch with his coach flawlessly. And it was impressive. Like, I'm not even mad. That was like, that should have made a highlight reel on some type of ESPN something. I'm surprised it didn't. The next wasn't as good. Jake Collier got an EM decision over John Vellante in just in a fight that happened. Evliavas and Landwehr got canceled as well. Roman Dolidze, our lone bet that was actually happened on the fight, because obviously the Durden fight didn't happen, cashed for 2 units for you guys. That Roman Dolidze was minus 190. We had him to win 2. He won a split decision. And if you are not watching the video, you did not see me make my wonderful quote fingers. You could also tell in the audio when I stress quote fingers and I say it that way. It's just somehow someone, a horrible judge, Chris Lee, I believe his name, gave the fight to John Allen, that's just awful. That's just awful. We'll get back to that as well. Santos versus De La Rosa did not happen. Another cancellation. Again, we are in the apex. We need to go back to Fight Island. I'm excited that in the new year, they're going to be there for at least one of those wonderful 3 fight cards in a week situations that just, I won't talk too bad on that until it happens. Jamal Hill proved he's every bit the prospect and got a standing TK over Oven St. Preux. Looked phenomenal. And Marvin Vettori got the unanimous decision over Jack Hermanson, 4-1, pretty much on anyone's scorecard that I saw, whether it be mine, the guys on this show, or people on Twitter, just about anybody. And he just looked utterly phenomenal. Now, first off, I want to jump not quite all the way back, but we will go to the ridiculous slam KO and just, poor Matt Wyman, and just your guys' opinions and the results on it. I'm going to start with Real Mike here. Real Mike, I want your opinion on what happened with the slam and just, I don't know, how your decision on all that, how you feel about it.
Yeah, the slam was super impressive, man. I loved every minute of it. I mean, when you go in for a double leg or single leg, with that one, it was literally full double leg, picked him up and walked him across the ring, kind of like Matt Hughes. You can see, when he went to slam him down, he also put his elbow into his throat to push his head down and make serious contact. So it's kind of weird to hear him say he wishes he didn't win like that when he specifically went up to slam that motherfucker down on his head and whooped his ass. So I absolutely loved it. I thought it was awesome. Weeman didn't belong, in the same league as him anyways. So it was a perfect grand finale Mortal Kombat finisher move.
Yeah, just staying on that real quick. This is something I was hoping we were going to touch on. If you are one of these pearl clutching ninnies who are sitting here screaming like, "Oh my God, he knocked him out. We have to outlaw that." Go watch tennis. I have no time for you. That is the friend that you do not invite over just in case he becomes a fan of the sport. We don't need that in here. Like, seriously, what do you, knockouts happen all the time in the sport. Let's ban punching. How about that? Matt Wyman, he could have put his feet down at any single point across that cage walk to get out of being slammed, but he didn't because he's over the hill and he's probably super nervous, didn't know what he was doing. But, for not, it was impressive. But yeah, keep slams in the sport. That's my new slogan. That's 2024.
Well, and I'm laughing because as we talked about before the show, and one of those pearl clutching ninnies happens to be the guy that actually executed the slam KO, because since that has come out saying that he wants them banned. But you know what? I will give it to him because of Dirty Dancing. That's literally the reason I'm cool with that. But okay, moving on. Just as a review, and I don't know, Mikey Gills, is there any other specific one you want to go over the fight before we go over the bet from this one and then wax poetic on the main event? Was there any ones that just spoke to you in a way?
Well, yeah. So 3 weeks ago, the first time that we broke down the Luis Smolka Jose Quinones fight, I had it right. I was leaning Smolka in that time. And then at some point over the next 2 weeks, I talked myself out of it and was like, you know what? I see some stuff with this Quinones guy.
We did the same thing, dude. Don't worry. Me and Bob both were gonna bet Smolka last time. Then this time we're like, nah, fuck that guy. We don't
double weight cut. We're gonna stay away from it.
Yeah, no. I tried to outsmart myself. It was like tin cup. My brain got in the way, but that's it.
Sorry, I always appreciate any Kevin Costner movie reference. So
Right.
we're gonna go with
Great
that
movie.
one. Real Mike, I want your opinion on just how phenomenal Deleedsy looked throughout the entire fight. Again, I'm a little shocked at this split decision, but really everyone was. But in terms of the fight, how do you feel, Roman Deleedsy?
I mean, I feel absolutely amazing about it. You know, to cash 2 units for the team after cashing last week. Now we're up 3 units after the last 2 shows. Daldiz, he looked amazing. The only thing that I didn't like was that he didn't take it as seriously as he should the entire time. I think that's why you have the little lapses on the judges where they just do the crazy shit. No excuse for those judges to be like so far out there because that specific judge has been on the wrong side of these cards like the last 3 events. He's absolutely horrendous. He should have to sit down in front of the post-fight press conference and answer to some, of these things. At least give us an excuse or on why the hell he saw it that way. But it will never happen like that when big money rules all. But like I said, Daldiz, great performance. I had him winning it clearly. It was unanimous in my opinion. But those judges are freaking shady as could be.
Mike Gills, any thoughts on the decision?
I mean, there's Mike just covered it all. What can you say? It's horrible. It's terrible that people imagine if there was just one other person who was either stupid or paid off. That's their careers on the balance. There's no other excuse for it. Chris Lee, I think I saw the graphic that they put up. 7 of the last 10 split decisions, he was the odd man out on those. You can't have that. It's unreasonable.
Yeah, he picked Paul Felder.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah, you're right.
For those of you who didn't hear the audible snicker that I just had on that one was rough. I just want to quick talk about Jamal Hill's performance before we move on to the main event, only because I remember us talking about it and me really liking Jamal Hill here, but like this is one of our rules. We do not put anything, any money or any pick involved in Ovince St. Preux fight because of just Ovince St. Preux. Weird stuff can happen. I mean, I guess maybe that's starting to fade, but Jamal Hill looked awesome. He actually used his reach that Mike Gills was talking about and just like landing straight shots. And I mean, I'm happy the ref stopped the fight. I mean, sometimes refs will refuse to stop the fight if the guy is still standing. But I mean, Ovince St. Preux was like, he wasn't defending. He was just eating shots there against the cage. And I don't know, Jamal Hill looked fantastic. Either of you can hop in for how you think about Jamal Hill.
We were all pretty high on him last week. Like I said, at Best Fight Picks, one of the other podcasts I like the most, Dan Levy, super high on Jamal Hill, has known him personally, was so high on him, and the fact that he was this caliber of a fighter, it actually persuaded me to pick him as to win the fight. Like I said, OSP is OSP. You never know what you're going to get. I said that last week, it is what it is. But Jamal Hill was absolutely phenomenal, man. His ceiling to me is so high now. He's super young, super good takedown defense, good striking, good length and range. Kind of remind, people say this a lot, but he kind of reminds me of a skinnier John Jones, smaller, very rangy and just all around good game. So shout out to Best Fight Picks, Dan Levy, for calling that like no one's business.
No, the only thing that I would add on to that is we keep talking about it week after week. The future for light heavyweight and heavyweight both are looking really good, and he's one of the reasons why for 205. Just a lot of young up-and-coming talent in those divisions that are ready to take over and kick out the old guard.
Now, hopping over there to the main event, well, what ended up being the main event, Jack Hermansson versus Marvin Vettori. Marvin Vettori, I think he put a lot of people on notice for how good he actually is, and I am so angry. But I mean, it's a standing rule. I will full disclosure. Real Mike wanted this as a bet. He wanted Marvin Vettori, and I talked about on the show that three things that scared me away is jumping the weight cut a week early so that he could fight because he was supposed to be fighting this coming weekend. That was one. 2 was main events. We typically don't do very well with main events. And 3 was the pricing. I'm like, how is he like, if he was a dog, I would have picked, if he was the plus 115, he was going to be a pick. But just all of those things, just like this whole, apparently this whole double weight cut thing that I think affects everybody apparently doesn't affect people because or an early weight cut because Marvin Vettori looked awesome. Lucas Smolka looked better than he has. And I don't even know, that was the entire reason I didn't bet him the second time around. I mean, I made some money because I had him fight doesn't go to the distance with that because it was plus money between those two and both those guys will go for a finish. So, I mean, Mike was very much on the right side here. I mean, I was too. I just I couldn't bet it with everything else going into it. And Oh man, I am green with jealous rage over all the people that actually did, because he looked phenomenal. I mean, I still would have thought he probably would have gotten the finish. He did land a lot, and I mean, Jack Hermanson landed a lot of claws, the face and eye region.
Seriously.
So
They call that the stinger. You're not allowed to use that no more.
So Mikey Gills, your thoughts on the main event there?
Yeah, all right. So my reason for picking Hermanson was pretty simple, is that I had seen Vettori fade in fights before. So imagine my excitement 4 minutes into round 2 when I see Vettori start to slow down. Hermanson starts to put on that pressure. And then going into the 3rd round where Vettori just basically wasn't really fighting as much anymore. And I am just, we're all in the same group chat with everyone who watches the fights. I said Vettori is gas with like 17 S's. I was so happy, ready to gloat, and then the 4th round happened. And Vettori came out like, oh, y'all must have forgot. Just fresh as killed me. But no, I mean, it was a good fight. They both landed a lot of strikes on each other. It was a history-making fight as far as fights, as far as strikes landed, I believe. But hell of a fight. Hermanson, he didn't look bad, I don't think. Vettori, but it's like what you said earlier. A lot of eyes were open for me. I now do also view Vettori as one of those top guys who's going to be, maybe part of that future we were just talking about.
Real Mike. The guy that you wanted. I mean, you're wrong. The guy you got still cash, so it really doesn't matter. But like, you were right. I'm giving you full credit on this. Would have been a great play.
No worries.
Scared off because of all the X factors.
It's a good lesson for the fans that we don't fire for no reason. We don't fire, just because we want to. We don't fire because we don't have a bet. We fire when we really feel confident about something, and we also have some rules that we like to stick to. The fact that we stick to those rules show you that we're pretty professional in the way that we go about things to keep a bankroll around. So as much as I hated the fact that we didn't get to pick him as a bet, I still called it out on the show. I said that his jiu-jitsu would be equal to Jack Hermanson, and that's all Jack Hermanson had to offer. And then also that Jack Hermanson would get pieced up on the feet, and that's how he got knocked down on his ass in round 1. So it is what it is. I hope that some of the people from the show cash that bet, because I was on fire this card. I almost called every single one of them, and I just hope some of you guys hit them.
Well, that's why, like me and Real Mike talk about, not to exclude Mikey Gills, but this is just in reference to betting that, because I know he got completely screwed this week, and we'll talk about that after this next statement. I would say is if you want a little bit more action, we do usually, not always, but occasionally there's secondary bets that are on, whether it posted on Twitter or whatever. Like, and this one I ended up with, Durden got canceled, so originally I was gonna have 4 bets for this one, even though we only give out 2 on the show. 2 were from the show, and then I had Quinones straight, and then the fight doesn't go to distance. Obviously, the Quinones one didn't pan out, but since doesn't go to distance was plus money, it still ended up overall adding more to it. So it's like, if you want more action, we usually, sometimes there's more. If you follow us on Twitter or any of the awesome articles that get shared for the MMAforMoney Twitter account, or just for the webpage, because if you actually go to the website, there's prop breakdowns or specific stuff. It's not just from us, it's from other guys, and eventually we're gonna make Mikey Gills write up stuff on there too. So
that's why you guys have my email. So tricky.
Just tricky. Hey man, I used to have an account on there, and I used to write fight breakdowns too before there was like the show. So this is just easier communicatively.
Fair enough.
I struggled through that word, so I'm happy that we're just breezing past it.
Communicative. Yeah.
So Mikey Gills, I know it got completely fell out, and this is going to be our risk going forward, being in Vegas. So awesome that we only have, technically 2 more events in Vegas before we have at least 3 at Fight Island. Yeah. So I know that's sucks for you, because you almost have to have like backup lines and what have you. But how late were you finally like, I can't do anything?
So here's how my saga for the night went. I was putting together IKEA furniture, a nice little cabinet shelf for our kitchen, and I was using the start of the fights at 7 o'clock as my get out of doing anything card. And around 6:40ish, maybe, I don't know, I became aware that what was it? I think 3 fights had dropped off instantly, like at the same exact time. So had to just completely haul ass and overhaul every single lineup I had. It ended up working out. It's too bad it wasn't an official one, because I ended up just out of sheer panic throwing the same lineup out, and it scored 523 points straight across the board.
Yeah, baby.
Good night for me, but it wasn't an official one, so I didn't give it out beforehand, so I can't sit here and say like, oh, no. But anyway, yeah. But no, I forgot what I was saying. But yeah, the furniture got put together. Unfortunately, I had to stay up and do it. The fights were very short. I think, what did we end up with? Like 8 of them? Just whatever.
I think so.
But yeah, so no, but anyway, the point of this whole thing is we are riding a streak now. We're back in the money, and we're bringing it into this week. Let's go.
Well, speaking of going into this week, we're going to jump into the last pay-per-view of the year. Not last fight card of the year, but last pay-per-view of the year. UFC 256, Figueiredo versus Moreno. We're jumping up with the little Eminem fan there that is Chase Hooper. He is back at it after completely whiffing his last time out because he fancied himself a striker, even though he's not. And here's hoping all of the joking Fight Pass shows with Ben Askren have actually taught him some wrestling, so he can get it down to go to the jiu-jitsus that he's so good at. He's fighting against Peter Barrett plus 315, Mikey Gills to start us right off. Where are you for Hooper versus Barrett, and where are they DraftKings wise?
Yes, let's start off with Chase Hooper, 9-1-1, 3 knockouts, 4 subs, $9,300 on DraftKings. A lot of believers coming off that loss. You were just talking about to Bruce Leroy back in June. Stylistically, primarily a grappler. He looks to clinch up and go for the takedown, work from there. Stand up, like you were talking about, a work in progress. You could see when he was on Dana White's Contender Series back in the day, not a whole lot has changed. He still blocks punches with his brain. Not the best idea. So stick with the strategy that he's doing. Like you just said, he's been spending a lot of time with Ben Askren, that long-running joke about them being father and son. And as long as his striking is a work in progress, that's a good guy that you need to have in your corner. Not really in his corner, but in his corner, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, he can still be outstruck, and I'm not sure that that's going to be a problem in this match, and here's why. Going up against Pete Barrett, 11-4, $6,900 on DraftKings. And look, this time of year, I'm very busy, so I get annoyed when I have to research fighters and I see certain things. We're going to talk about that. This man has 10 wins. Only 4 of those 10 opponents had winning records. And because I hate free time, I went ahead and did the math for you guys. Do you want to know the combined records of his 10 opponents, or the 10 wins on his record?
Yep.
61 and 135.
Awesome.
Okay? Those are the combined records of the 10 people that he's beaten.
Dude, that's like 60%. That's solid.
Yoel Romero is cut from the UFC, but we have room for slippery Pete Barrett. Chase Hooper is going to win this. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, this one is Chase Hooper's stand-up is absolutely garbage. I'm not going to fucking try to front at all. His stand-up is fucking horrific. It looks like a 17-year-old boy trying to put his dukes up versus a man. If Barrett keeps his fight standing, he's absolutely going to fuck Chase Hooper's face up. But I have a thing that in MMA, the fight hits the ground, and the longer, taller jiu-jitsu artist is not something to fuck with, man. I mean, I hate when the guy's longer and has my back or has me on the ground. Somehow they were able to pull off shit that I can't when I'm shorter. So I think that Barrett is going to have a shit show of a time on the ground. I think that Hooper is going to get him down, and he's going to be able to submit him, especially with that help with Ben Askren in the wrestling department. I mean, Ben Askren's a joke in MMA now, but he's no joke with wrestling. When he gives you some wrestling pointers on a single leg, double leg, single leg turn and dump, whatever it may be, you take those pointers and you run with them. I expect his takedowns to be absolutely tremendous this time. He wasn't that bad before. It wasn't that wrestling based, but if he implements Ben Askren type takedowns, he could definitely get this fight to the ground, and he should submit Peter Barrett quite easily.
Well, and that's the hard thing here, and that's when I'm obviously like Hooper's huge favorite. He has the name recognition, and this is a huge step down from his last fight against Bruce Leroy. He should win, but his ground game's there, the wrestling, striking not so much. But like, I mean, I hope he's not learning striking from Ben Askren, because then that wouldn't help him at all either.
Yeah,
the Ben Askren. I need Hooper to show me something more and show that. I mean, he's such a young fighter. That's another hard part, is he's so young that he has the opportunity to make such huge strides in between fights where, like we said, if he's on the feet, Peter Barrett might take him out. And he's a huge underdog, plus 315 right now. I thought I had the prop up for him inside the distance, but even plus 315 is just ridiculous. So it's like, I mean, it'd be worth maybe a flyer on that just a little bit, but I don't know. I want Hooper to win. I like his shtick, like everything about it. I like the fact that he looks like young Screech. I love the fact that he's really good on the ground. I love the fact that he's like weird and obsessed with like M&Ms and like all of this additional stuff, and kind of weird the UFC has picked him up and decided to move on with him. But I'll put it this way. I'm a fan of his type of content. Now, will that turn into an actual good UFC fighter? I do not know. So I'm pick is Hooper, but you know how much I'm a fan of chaos. So I mean, Barrett might just very well get this KO. So if you're feeling squirrely, go with that. Next up, Sergey Spivak minus 235 versus Jared Vendera plus 195 on him. Real Mike Spivak versus Vendera.
Sorry about that. Spivak versus Madera. This fight's really weird to me. I don't have like the greatest look on this one because I honestly I really don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck about neither of these guys. Spivak, garbage. Absolutely shitty. Shouldn't be in the UFC. The other guy, I don't really know enough about to even talk shit about him, but I just know that Spivak's so bad that if you're fighting him, you should probably win. But I hate both. I hate this match. Period. It's much like the MMA, the women MMA matches that I just am disgusted with. So if I had to pick one, just like off the top of my head, I'd say Spivak, but I no way I'm fucking saying that. So I'm gonna go with the underdog Vanderera.
Okay. All right then. I'm gonna start off with Spivak. 11-3, 2 knockouts, 6 subs, going for $8,800 on DraftKings. 2-2 since coming to the UFC, most recently beating Carlos Felipe in a fight that I don't remember because it was on my birthday. So shout out to Spivak for that win. Anyway, does his best work, I think, when he's in close, likes to push his opponents, gets caged, he throws from the inside really well. Really dangerous on the ground, too, particularly off his back. He can snatch up an arm, throw up a try, do whatever he needs to do. Going up against Jared Vandera, 11-4, 7 knockouts, 3 subs, 7,400 on DraftKings. He's making his UFC debut after winning on Dana White's Contender Series just over a month ago. I went back and I watched a few of this guy's fights. He's a really patient striker, and by that, I mean he doesn't really throw a whole lot. Likes to stay on the outside. What he does do well is he throws a ton of leg kicks. He uses them to keep his opponents at distance, and he throws really heavy with them. Actually, like that is one thing that he does pretty well. He uses his size. He's got big reach. He uses all that to keep him out of trouble. But again, the kicks are one of the biggest parts of his stand-up game that I saw. Once he hurts you with kicks, he does like to throw his opponent down, and he's a guy. Anybody his size is going to be pretty nasty from the top. So, looking at that matchup, like Vandera does have a style that can be a problem for Spivak if he's allowed to stay at range and throw those kicks. He's taller, he's longer. You can soften up anybody if you land on him enough. But Spivak can fight at range too, and but he doesn't even need to. He's good in close. He can push his opponents against the cage, fight dirty, get him down, and work for subs. I think that's probably what ends up happening here. So I'm going to take Spivak, and I like him by submission.
Stole my thunder on that one. I was just gonna basically just go Spivak sub and did a mic drop, but I mean, I guess I have to say something now. No, I'm not. Give me any relatively athletic heavyweight with a submission game, and anybody outside of the top 10, top 15, I'm gonna pick them every time, and that's this scenario. I do think Spivak is gonna get us up here against Vandera, and that's really all I got on that one. The next one's a little bit tricky in terms of betting, because Tisha Torres was supposed to fight Angela Hill. Angela Hill tested positive, so she's out. And now we have a last-minute replacement. I'm talking about crazy last-minute replacement. Sam Hughes, that's a lady. There's no odds on this. I've been refreshing this whole time, and I will keep refreshing throughout the entire show. So if odds do come up, I will say them. But as of right now, there are still no odds. Obviously, we've lost a few fights on here, and a couple have been shuffled around. But as of right now, no odds whatsoever. So actually, I'm gonna go to Mike Gills first because are there DraftKings pricing on this one?
Yes, there are, and I'm glad you're coming to me first because I'm disgusted. We're gonna start off with Sam Hughes, $7,300 on DraftKings. I gotta throw some numbers at you guys. She's 5-1 as a pro. Sounds impressive so far. So hold on to that because that's as good as it gets.
Give him the records. Give him the records.
It's never gonna get that good again. Her first 3 opponents of her career were 0-0. She did not fight an opponent with a professional record until January of this year. And now she's in the UFC fighting Tisha Torres. She's 1-1 with anyone who has more than 3 wins. She's listed as having a kickboxing background. You guys follow me on Twitter. I posted some of her kickboxing fights earlier. Holy shit. Did you guys watch those by any chance?
I watched the first one.
Okay.
The Tybo videos?
No, not even Tybo. Billy Blanks would have none of that. Okay, like these girls.
Billy Blanks don't play that. We all know that.
Billy Blanks has nothing. Just
a really low cut tank top, like
a
really low cut tank top.
She looks so bad. Like, again, what are we doing? Yoel Romero's cut. Marab is getting fights canceled because they're non-competitive. But she's gonna go up against Tisha Torres, who's like, look, not the greatest fighter in the world. I'll admit that, but she doesn't suck either. She's losing to people like Andrade, John Jacek, Weili Zhang. Those are top fighters. But like, I don't know. Like, the only way for me to look at this is for DraftKings. And I have to think that Tisha Torres, someone who I believe has only finished one fighter in her entire career, if she is going to finish anybody, it is going to be Sam Hughes. So against all reasoning, I like Tisha Torres on DraftKings. I forgot to write down her price. It's somewhere in the 80s, like 8,700 on DraftKings, maybe even 89. But I still like her in this fight. She's going to beat this girl.
Yeah, easily. Tisha Torres is such an OG veteran. I mean, last time out, she performed really well, a lot better than even a lot of her other pro performances. So she's getting more vicious. She's putting more volume on. She's definitely throwing more combos. She looks a lot better than she used to. She should fuck Sam Hughes up badly. There is no fucking way that she should not absolutely dominate this girl. I really think she is going to finish her. If she doesn't, it's pathetic that that the other girl in LFA finished her from an inverted triangle, but Tisha Torres can't piece her up on the feet and then put her on the ground and submit her ass. So I think that it's quite easily the best opportunity for Tisha Torres to whoop some ass and get a submission or a TKO KO. I think that you are stupid as fuck if you don't put her in your DraftKings lineup. You don't bet on her. I mean, if the number is crazy high, then don't do it. But DraftKings wise, that number looked money to me because there were some people last week that were worth more that lost. So I think that Tisha Torres is an absolute lock here. Going to show this girl about the UFC caliber women's MMA.
Juliana Lima. That's the finish that Tisha Torres has. She got her by rear naked choke in the second round on 7-7-17.
Nice.
Just because since you said you think she had one finish,
Yeah.
I just want to throw it there since I had time to look. I didn't know that off the top of my head. I'm sorry. I don't know all of Tisha Torres' finishes. Even though there was only one, I would have told her she didn't have any. But
also, I just confirmed it. It was 8,900. I just looked it up.
Oh, that's sorry. Because here's my thing with Tisha Torres. In this fight specifically, when she's not fighting someone of the caliber, is she uses her kickboxing to get to takedowns and gets control. It's like that. It could be just rinse repeat of that, and she'll score big because it's like she'll land at distance, she'll close it in, she'll take it down. There will be some type of sloppy transition, and either they'll get back up and she'll rinse and repeat. So high volume takedowns plus some strikes at distance, and they'll all be significant. Or in one of those awkward transitions, she'll get a sub. She'll get on the back or something. I do think she has the best chance of getting a finish here than she has in the last, since 2017. So obviously, no brainer pick here. I mean, obviously these odds are going to be ridiculous. Like if she's probably going to open at like minus 350 minimum and just get parlayed up the wazoo. Yes, I use that phrase. It happened. We're moving on. And so yeah, still no odds. Again, I will keep checking throughout the show, but as of right now, still no. Next up, an actually good fight, good one. The actual first person to vanquish the Alpha Ginger, Billy Quarantillo, minus 55, versus Gavin Tucker, plus 135. Real Mike, how do you feel about Billy Q versus Gavin Tucker?
Yeah, this fight is going to be a really good one in my opinion. Billy Quarantino, has a professional boxing record. His boxing super clean. I like how straight he punches. Gavin Tucker though, jiu-jitsu is really good too. So I haven't seen enough from Billy Quarantino to know about his takedown defense of the upper echelon. Not saying that Gavin Tucker is that upper, but he's still here in the UFC, and I haven't seen a lot of fights out of Billy Quarantino. But I like the boxing of Billy Quarantino. I think that he uses his length well with his jabs and his punching, and so I think that if Tucker can get this to the ground, he'll have a somewhat of an advantage. But I really like Billy Quarantino's boxing and his crisp punching.
Yeah, I'll stick on Billy Quarantino. 15-2, 7 knockouts, 5 subs, going for 8,500 on DraftKings. Just right away, I wanted to talk about his height and reach. He's got a 4-inch height and reach advantage in this fight, which could play out huge. Stylistically, he's a bit of a slow starter, but if you look at the way he fights, that kind of looks like it's baked into his overall game. Like, he does have that good pace. You were just talking about the Spike Carlisle fight. Like, that's what he did in that fight, is he kind of slowly in the first round, and then he beat up Spike Carlisle, and he was the first person to make me go like, oh, I'm never betting Spike Carlisle again. I wish I would have took the advice then. But anyway, moving right along to Gavin Tucker. 12-1, 4 knockouts, 6 subs, going on for $7,700 on DraftKings. 3-1 since entering the UFC. He's won his last 2 straight. Stylistically, I mean, he's a pretty well-rounded fighter all around. I mean, in this fight, you look at the way he fights, he's going to have the speed advantage on the feet. He's got the bigger arsenal. He throws more kicks. He has good head movement. And against a guy like Billy Q, who's got that height and reach advantage that we were just talking about, he's going to need to kind of be on his in and out game. The other thing I wanted to talk about is his wrestling game. If these rounds are close at the very end and you just need to do it, he does have the ability to take Q down and maybe just kind of squeak out a round like that. For me, I think this fight comes down to Gavin Tucker and just having the more well-rounded striking game. He throws really good kicks to go along with his punches. And that, to me, is really the main difference. I trust both of their gas tanks. I trust both of them on the ground. Billy Q, obviously, he's nobody to mess with down there either. It's close for me. I don't really have the strongest lean, but if you put a gun to my head, Tucker, and with his price on DraftKings, 7,700, I do think he is a very live underdog on DraftKings. So 7,700 Gavin Tucker, I do like him a lot in this fight. Or not. I like the lean, but I like him a lot as an underdog. Is how I should have worded that.
That's true, especially because on DraftKings you need underdogs, whereas in terms of betting, you don't have to go on underdog if you don't want to. For this fight, I lean Billy Q. Just in general, I like his style better. I like the reach. I like how he can pour it on, and he can just take a hellacious beating and keep going. I don't necessarily know if Gavin Tucker is as tough as Billy Q. I could see how it's an underdog play. I mean, quick pick. I guess Billy Q, but I don't have a heavy lean on this one. So if either of the guys said something that more speaks to you, go that way. But like, I'm actually surprised at the price in this one. I know for a little while it was a pick 'em, and I pretty much agreed with that. It really just kind of depends. I like how Gavin Tucker can be early, especially if he can keep Corntillo from establishing his distance and his jab. Later, Corntillo will pour it on, so could be a close decision, and in a close decision, you kind of want to be on the dog side almost always. So next up, Mackenzie Dern minus 190 versus Verna Jandiroba plus 165. Mikey Gills, how you feeling?
Yeah, I guess Mackenzie Dern 9-1, 6 subs, 3 decisions, 8,700 on DraftKings, going up against Werner Jandiroba, 7,500 on DraftKings. This fight, obviously, 2 great grapplers. Mackenzie Dern I think she's on record saying that Verna is going to be the best grappler that she's ever faced. Like, you look at Mackenzie Dern's last couple opponents, Verna's not going to be the type to stick her leg back into a position where it's going to get subbed. She's not going to be completely outmatched and go for a takedown anyway, like I think Hannah Cyphers did a while ago. We were making fun of her on the show. I guess this fight comes down, obviously, Mackenzie Dern's black belt is going to be different than anyone else's black belt, especially in the women's division. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that Mackenzie Dern is a high-level striker. Neither of these girls are high-level strikers. But what I do like about Mackenzie Dern is something that we talked about in her last fight, is she's been working with Jason Perillo, and she's aggressive. She's also a little bit bigger in this fight. So you put together all these little things that you can stack up, and I think on the scales, it just starts to lean Mackenzie Dern. I think with the pressure that she puts on, the way that she throws her strikes, she puts a lot of power into them as well. I think Perillo is going to have something for her, something to go against Verna. So I'm going to lean Mackenzie Dern in this fight. At 8,700, though, man, Mackenzie Dern does finish a lot of fights, but on DraftKings, I think there's other people you can get in that price range. So for me, kind of a stay away, but yeah.
Yeah, on this matchup, I don't trust Dern's striking. I think that it's absolutely horrendous for being, in the professional fighting in the UFC. So, man, I still don't think that Mackenzie Dern is UFC caliber. I think I picked Hannah Cyphers to do more damage than she did last time, and she was doing decent until she put herself in a bad position. So, like you said, Jandiroba isn't going to do that, I don't feel. I also feel like Jandiroba's, I feel like her striking edge is there. But with Jason Perillo, maybe helping Dern, it could be iffy. So, I mean, I wouldn't bet this fight. I don't feel confident laying the money on Dern. So I would go with the dog Jandiroba on this one.
Not for the show. I gotta clarify that. Specifically, I have to clarify that. But personally, I'm going to bet Jandiroba. There's not going to be an official pick for the show because we always go with our most confident pick for the show. It's not my most confident pick, but I will likely bet Jandiroba. Keep an eye on my Twitter just to make sure. I usually post those on Friday or Saturday. The last time Dern faced like anybody with remotely similar ground skills as Jandaroba was Amanda Ribas. She lost that fight. And Dern, like many jiu-jitsu people, they go through a evolutionary phase. Damian Maia is like the perfect archetype for this, but they all follow it. I'm really, really good at jiu-jitsu. I'm going to stick with jiu-jitsu. I'm only going to fight jiu-jitsu. Oh no, I've lost to someone else that has a little bit more wrestling than me and whatever. Okay. I'm going to fall in love with my hands. That's step 2. Mackenzie Dern is starting to move into that category. I mean, she's with Jason Perillo, so like her hands are going to be coming along, but you learn the offense first, not the defense. So she's going to start to fall in love with her striking. She was able to like, she has positive outcomes. Like she's knocked people down with her striking, but it's looping. It's not great. So I think she's still in the stage of I'm in love with my striking. And the third phase is obviously I'm going to get better at wrestling to incorporate with my jiu-jitsu to bring the game there and only use the striking to get to that stage. Like it's a fully functional thing that ends up with where Damian Maia was at 170, where he was crushing people until eventually just kind of age kind of caught up to him. But she's not in that phase yet. She's in the, hey, I have some power in my hands. I don't feel completely uncomfortable throwing. I can hit mitts. I'm gonna start throwing. And she's not gonna be able to throw up the Hail Mary subs here. So I like Jandaroba. Actually, in this one, I will pick her for this fight, and I will more than likely bet her. I am waiting because I do think that number is going to go up, and I only need to lock in a bet for this show on the one I'm most confident in. So I could wait, and I might be able to get plus 200 on Jandaroba. I think for sure. I think I can get 180, especially like as it gets later in the week, especially with more and more fights falling off and everything like that. So I'm going to pick Jandaroba. Likely going to bet her. I do think so. Still think it's going to go to decision.
Yeah.
Even though I do see Dern gassing out pretty bad towards the end of the fight, but I mean, I still don't think it's going to result in a finish because I don't think Jandaroba kind of really has that power, and I think Dern will be able to defending it, subs and attack, and either way. Going with Jandaroba, talking way too much on this fight. Moving on. It tends to be what happens. At least this one's probably going to have a bet. Usually I talk too much on a fight that has nothing to do with a bet or anything like that, and then all of a sudden it's like 10 minutes later and I've wasted all of your guys' time.
Yeah, I'm already like back watching the Ravens game.
That's hey, dude, hey, go sports ball. Sorry. For any of you who do not remember or do not know, I'm not a big stick and ball sports person. So basically movie references, comic references, and fighting. That's my wheelhouse. And reading.
Wheelhouse.
I basically do those like 3 things. That's about it. So moving on to just a weird fight. Cub Swanson is still fighting. Plus 135 versus Daniel Pineda, minus 155. Real Mike, Killer Cub versus Daniel Pineda.
Yeah, man, this is a weird one, man. It feels like the Cubs being set up for some younger, like up and coming star, but it's not. Pineda's old. He's almost the same age as Cub Swanson, right? Is he 35, 34?
I don't know his
We'll
age.
look that
I
up.
was shaking my head.
Either way, he's not as young. He's not as young as you would think he would be versus Cub Swanson coming in here. A lot of people don't know Daniel Pineda, so this is going to be just a weird one because a lot of people want to fade Cub Swanson. I don't think that Pineda is the dude, bro. I mean, Cub Swanson's been in this game a long time. He's been swinging. He's been throwing them for a long time with some of the best fighters there are. I really think that this is a spot where Cub Swanson could possibly win this fight with his veteran savvy skills. The fact that they're both not spring chickens. I think that this is finally one of the times where the Cub Swanson's a little bit closer than some of the fights he's been in. So I'm going to go with Cub Swanson here because the OG versus the other guy or newer guy, I always pick that. So I'm going to go with Cub Swanson via experience, but I'm not going to bet this.
So I was shaking my head in agreement with the first part of your sentence where you're like, he's being set up to lose. I was like, yeah. And then you're at the younger guy and I was still shaking my head and I was like, oh, shit. Anyway, I don't know Daniel Pineda's age. So that's why you said that. I was like, oh, shit, I don't know.
35.
Anyway.
I looked it up. Cub is 37. Pineda is 35.
All right, well, fair enough. So I'll give the DraftKings salaries out real quick. Cub Swanson's at 7,900, Daniel Pineda at 8,300. What it comes down to for me is a guy like Cub Swanson, he's lost 4 of his last 6. The only 2 wins he's had along that were over the GOAT, Artem Lobov, and then a really a close decision against Karon Gracie. Like sometimes it's age, sometimes it's a particular fight. In his case, it might be that war he had with Doo Ho Choi It was back in like 2016, 2017, somewhere back then. But yeah, at some point, fighters just don't have it anymore. And Cub Swanson might be at that stage, going up against Daniel Pineda, like we were saying. One of the first guys to ever make me look stupid on the show. We bet. I think Mike, you also with me bet him to get smashed by Herbert Burns, and the exact opposite. He smashed Herbert Burns.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about that.
Yeah. Sorry. He's a beast on the ground. Like the real question for this is back to man, Cub Swanson. Just is it the fact that he's losing to all those top guys that are mixed in between Chrome Gracie and Artem Lobov, or is it that he's a 37-year-old fighter who's been around forever? We know my rule in the show: I don't bet guys that lose on Fuel TV. It's even harder to bet guys that were on Versus. So for right now, man, Pineda, 8,300 on DraftKings. I think he's going to get this win. You look at Cub Swanson, the way he's been losing to guys. He's been losing to guys who can dominate him on the ground. He's been subbed twice in that stretch we were just talking about. It hurts to say Pineda at 8,300. Yeah, I don't like Cub Swanson in this fight, but he's only 7,900. He's a vet. He knows how to win fights. If you find yourself in a position, maybe throw some money on him in DraftKings. But for me, it's Pineda at 8,300.
Don't bet this fight.
Well, if it'll make you feel better about picking Pineda, I wouldn't bet this fight personally. And the specific reason is, in terms of skill, I think Swanson is better. In terms of wear and tear, I think Swanson's worse. So I would lean Pineda mainly because what everyone always forgets or doesn't know is right after the Cron Gracie fight, 2 months after, he was in a grappling competition with Jake Shields, and Jake Shields blew out his knee. Just straight blew out Cub Swanson's knee. It's the reason he hasn't fought since the grappling bout was last December, and the fight with Cron Gracie was over a year ago because torn basically everything in his knee. Like he had the Thiago Santos knee going on. Thing was holding on by a thread, and this is his first fight back from that. So first fight back after about a year.
That's a great point, Bob. I didn't even think
a beer company.
Yeah, and not a good one.
And he's not even moonlighting at Jackson Wink really anymore. He's all training up in his own spot and pretty much has been for the last few years. And I'm not going to bet Pineda because he's the favorite. Like if he was the dog here, I'd be like, hey, I got an angle here. But I don't know, man. I can't see Swanson doing much, and I don't see Pineda doing much in the future. So this is in terms of, hey, the UFC's cutting 60 plus guys. Loser of this. Consider yourself cut, pretty much. They're fighting for a job. That's pretty much what's going on here. Next up, we have. It's been a theme in probably the last calendar year. I don't know if it's like the theme of 2020, especially in terms of MMA, but this is the sad fight of the week. Last week, before the fight, even I said the sad fight of the week was going to be Matt Wyman, and for Matt Wyman, that was really sad. So the sad fight for this week is JDS versus Cyril Gane, and JDS, Junior Dos Santos, plus 335, the one-time heavyweight champion, is fighting Cyril Gane, everyone stop saying he's a training partner of Francis Ngannou. They trained at the same gym and maybe trained like twice. They're not like buddies. They're not training partners. They just trained at the same gym at some point. But I get the connection. They're both gigantic, muscular black men. I get it. But other than that, and the fact they both hit hard, that's really all they got. I mean, Cyril Gane's got his fantastic chest tattoo. Francis Ngannou doesn't. So, like, there's a difference right there. But, Junior Dos Santos is the aged veteran that still has a lot of the skills, other than the fact that he's slowed down, but can't quite take the shot anymore. But before I go too far into it, I'm going to go with Mike Gills for Junior Dos Santos versus Cyril Gane.
Let's start off. Junior Dos Santos, 21-8, 13 knockouts, 3 subs, going for 7,000 on DraftKings. Going up against Cyril Gane, however we want to pronounce that, 6-0, 2 knockouts, 3 subs, 9,200 on DraftKings. So we're going to do this breakdown a little bit differently. If you are listening to this, I want you to close your eyes. We are going to go on a trip, all right? We are going to go all the way back to 2008 when Dana White put out a video blog before an event, and it showed a young newcomer to the UFC who was hitting pads in such a terrifying way that it changed the betting line against his fight against Fabrizio Verdum. Can you see it? Can you see it? Good. Now look to the left at the calendar. That was 12 years ago. Woo! Man, to me, this fight basically comes down to the experience level of Cyril Gane, whatever. As impressive as he has looked, and he has looked impressive, he has never faced anyone even close to the level of boxing skill or skill in the UFC as Junior Dos Santos. There is a huge difference between fighting Tanner Boser or fighting Dontel Mays. Not only is Junior Dos Santos a great boxer, he has a legit pedigree with jiu-jitsu as well. But with that being said, Junior Dos Santos is not even close to the fighter that he used to be. And there is a strategy to beat him. It's called Alistair Overeem syndrome. You put him against the cage, he forgets how to fight. And all of a sudden you touch him once, he falls over, big man go, ow. So with that in mind, I am going to pick Cyril Gane to win this fight, but I'm here for DraftKings purposes. I don't know for a fact that Cyril Gane is going to be able to put it on a guy with the boxing skill of a Junior Dos Santos. On the bottom end of this card, look up the DraftKings prices. You're going to see a whole bunch of people that are probably going to lose their fights in devastating fashion. Now, out of those, the cheapest one or the second cheapest one at 7,000 is Junior Dos Santos. He might not be the worst play because we see in his fights against Rosenstruik, against maybe it was Lewis, I can't remember, but he looks good until he gets knocked out. Is there a chance that Cyril Gane is a front runner? I don't know. Is there a chance that at the end of the first round, Junior Dos Santos is landing shots on him and Cyril Gane just isn't quite sure how to react? Does he gas? Does he panic? We don't know. $7,000 is a reasonable price to find out. I think at the bottom end for DraftKings, Junior Dos Santos might not be the worst play. But again, I do not think he's going to win this fight, just making that one clear.
Yeah, kind of like Mikey said. I mean, Junior Dos Santos boxing is pretty good. You know, he's ran circles around a lot of guys. Ben Rothwell was one of the guys I thought was actually going to beat JDS, and then JDS decided to do a Mayweather 3-round boxing clinic versus him and win that fight. So he could definitely do that, and it could happen. But I just don't think he could take the damage anymore. Cyril Gane is an impressive specimen. The damage and power that he throws with is absolutely devastating. He doesn't even need to hit JDS on the chin. He just needs to hit him on the head, and he's going to knock him down and out. I'm going to pick Cyril Gane by absolute devastation, monkey strikes to JDS's head.
Yeah, so as I said, this is the sad fight of the week. Love JDS. I love JDS so much that when he was sponsored by Nike in Brazil, I bought myself a Nike Singano shirt because
Nice.
I was all about it back in whatever, late college, early non-college, either way. He has slowed down. He still has all the skill there. He absolutely does. He's pretty much a pure boxer. I mean, even though we've always been told his best is his jiu-jitsu, which he's literally never shown within the UFC. Dude's got some boxing, absolutely. Still has pop in his hands. But the hard part is like just like Mike Gill said, he's winning until he gets put out. He's winning until he gets knocked out. That's a real rough thing to say. And at some point, he's still getting knocked out. And I mean, not everyone's Alistair Overeem, who like apparently can get knocked out 20 times and is still coherent and can talk to people. Junior Dos Santos, there's definitely some severe wear and tear on just about everything. And he may look great. He absolutely might look great. And Cyril Gane, I'm not sure if he's a front runner, but he for sure comes out fast. So he's going to go for the finish in the first round and a half. I've heard some people say that his ground game is really good. Like, he just has like strong heavyweight submissions. It's like if any of those arm locks is literally just like, I'm real strong. I'm grab your arm, I twist it, and then the guy taps. It's not like technical submissions, and he's not doing that on JDS. The thing that bothers me on JDS, he puts on the boxing clinics, he does, but he never has gotten the cover up defense aspect of it. So like he's throwing, but his hands are down here. If you can't see this, I realize again that that's very much a video statement, not as much of an audio statement. If you can't tell, my hands are down. You can barely see them, but they're moving. And he kind of bobs and weaves, and he'll throw in the hooks and occasionally throw in a jab, but his jab is throwing his entire body into it, leaning his head over to the side, and he could very much get completely and utterly clocked by Cyril Gane again. Now I'm getting self-conscious about the name here, but he has the power. Gane does an advantage. I mean, JDS has power, but the speed isn't there anymore, which can take a little bit off the power. And I hate to say it, but I do think JDS's time of being a top tier heavyweight is done. They need to start transitioning him to where like Arlovsky's living, in that like fighting the 10 to 15th rank guy. Like give him in the next year, give him Tom Aspinall or give him the Romanov dynasty or someone like that.
No.
That's I said in the next year and a half. I didn't say them all. Just bear with me. And you'd feel better about it too if he gets his completely destroyed this weekend by Cyril Gane. You'd be like, okay, well, he's not there yet. But I don't know yet. So hard to say, but yeah, there's not much for this fight. I guess my biggest thing is Cyril Gane is minus 420. Last time I checked the pricing, I will double check in case it changed. But last I checked, him inside the distance was only minus 150, and that's how he's going to win. So where's the inside the distance going? I just had it. Yeah, minus 145 for inside the distance. So it's like that's how he's going to win. So if you want him at a substantially lower price, that's where it is. I honestly don't think he's going to win a decision. That would be JDS winning, would likely being a decision. So if you want better odds there, go with that prop. Otherwise, I don't have a bet on this fight because I don't like to root for past favorite fighters of mine. So that's my take on this one. Moving on. Kevin Holland tested negative now. His test came back from earlier in the week. He's officially negative. So even though his fight only got pushed a week, he's good to go. So Kevin Holland is minus 110 against Ronaldo Jacare Souza, minus 110. Real Mike, Kevin Holland, who I know you've been pretty high on, versus the aged Gator.
Oh man, this is, Kevin Holland is obviously the younger, more athletic, definitely going to have the advantage standing in my opinion. But on the ground, Souza's no joke, man. I'm having trouble grasping if Ronaldo Souza gets Holland down, it could be a big problem. But I'm not going to go that way. I really think that Holland has the striking to put out Souza and to make him think differently and lose his black belt when he gets on the ground. So I think I'm going to go with a Kevin Holland to actually TKO KO finish. Souza. I think that Souza is just not going to be able to even use his black belt on the ground because he's going to be unconscious.
Yeah, no, like I'm getting back to the first thing you said. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Let's put that out number one. But all of these
that's UFC... a bad identifier to start with because then we're going to assume you're trying to make up for the fact that you are.
Hear me out. So all these UFC fighters like Iwan Kutalaba, like now Kevin Holland, like several others, they keep testing positive for COVID, but like a week later, they're apparently okay to be locked in a cage and fight professional fighters. I don't know.
Kutalaba tested positive like 3 times.
He's snorting COVID right now. He doesn't care. He's still in his garage training. But
Moldovan COVID snorting.
Yeah. He's up there with Romanov. When you're in the dynasty, you get whatever you want. But Kevin Holland, 8,200 on DraftKings versus Jacare 8,000. It's the turn. You're going to want to have one of these guys in your lineup probably. For me, Jacare, he's 40 years old. He hasn't fought it'll be over 13 months when he steps in the cage. And he's one of these guys, we were talking about people like him earlier. He's a grappler who now thinks he's a striker. And he's going to be dealing with a guy who, in Kevin Holland, who I think has an 81.5-inch reach. He's got a lot of pop on his hands. Ask Joe Quinn Buckley. And he's competent on the ground. I'm not saying that if he grappled Jacare, he would win. I mean, he just got submitted by Brendan Allen. But he's competent enough, I think, to escape back to his feet where he can just batter a 40-year-old man and we can all be sad together. And so for that, I am going to lean Kevin Holland in this fight. I don't have a crazy huge lean, but it is a lean for Kevin Holland. Again, if they get down on the ground, Jacare is more than capable of submitting him. And even on the feet, Jacare, he has a lot of power. Back before USADA was around, when he first started to come around with those power strikes, he could cover a lot of ground real fast with a lot of pop. I think those days are gone right now. So Kevin Holland's my pick, 8,200. But again, either one of these guys, depending on the lineup that you use, are probably going to be in the optimal.
Sorry, in like any other sport or the time of your life, like just beats up a 40-year-old man. Sorry, I don't know why it made me laugh.
Well,
just hit me.
Robin Ventura went after it. Nolan Ryan on the mound. It didn't end up well for him. Nolan Ryan was like 44 at the time.
Yeah, Nolan Ryan whooped his ass.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, I'm gonna be on the other side here, not in a crazy way, but again, reminder, we are at the apex. So we are in the smaller cage.
Mhm.
And one thing the smaller cage can aid to is getting held up against the fence. And one thing that it was a split and it was a horribly boring fight, don't get me wrong. But one thing that Jacare was able to do to the now light heavyweight champion was pin him up against the fence. And I do think that could happen for long stretches in this fight. Like I'm talking like the terrible type of holding against the fence. Like he's pinned against them, he's holding one arm, he's doing the occasional punch to the body and the stomp on the foot. Like the worst type of pushing up against the fence. And I think that could happen for the better part of 2 to 3 rounds. Like if he was like a big dog here, I thought there was gonna be a lot of money on Kevin Holland, and if it was a bigger dog, I would have gone that because I do think it's gonna be closer than people think. Yeah, I say all this stuff, and then Kevin Holland just gonna do something crazy and like jump across and do like a flying switch kick and knock him out, and then I'll be eating crow. But as of right now, I think it's gonna be a lot closer than people think. I mean, I guess not so with it being a pick'em, but I do think Souza is gonna win a sneaky decision. Everyone's talking about like, Holland looks so good. Holland looks so good. It's like again, this is his 5th fight in a year. And I know people are talking about that's great experience and it gets you in a flow. But there's a reason why most fighters don't fight 5 fights in a year. It's because every single time they do, in my memory, they lose. They lose that 5th fight. Usually they lose that 4th fight, but they like I can't think of one where they win the 5th. Cowboy has always lost the 5th. Anybody else like Angela Hill has lost the 5th. Anyone that has tried to put in 5 fights in a year has lost the 5th. And I mean, by all means, if someone in the chat knows this or hit me up after the fact or whatever, it's like just off the top of my head, literally no fighter that I know that has tried to squeeze in that many fights in a year has won the 5th one. And it's sometimes, yes, it's not like 5 fights in a year. It's like 5 fights in like 13, 14 months or something like that. But I cannot think of one. It just utterly blank. I could think of at least 2 or 3 that failed.
I think Hoist won 5 in a row.
That doesn't count.
Hey, but hear me out. But in the 5th fight, he was so injured he couldn't compete in the 6th. I think that's how it went. I can't remember.
Well, I'm pretty sure. But that's also because you didn't have the wear and tear all happened that night, and you didn't have like the subsequent damage situations. But
I'm just trying to throw facts out there.
Point taken. I'll take your facts. Those were facts. But that's when I'm like I've been on the Kevin Holland train. I've been pro Kevin Holland. I've picked him in fights. I've made a lot of money on Kevin Holland. I think this is the one where he's super confident, which is great, but I think he's underestimating a savvy veteran. And I think this is going to be Saffron veteran time where it's not going to be pretty, but I think Souza can squeak it out. Next up, we have a bet. We're finally to the point where we have a bet. I know, I'm aware. You've been waiting with bated breath. Well, we have one here. We have Hanato that was real messed up. Hanato Moicano plus 135 versus Rafael Fiziev minus 155. Mikey Gills, talk to me about Moicano versus Fiziev.
Yeah, let's start off with Hanato Moicano. 14-3-1, 7 subs, 7 decisions, won $7,800 on DraftKings. Rebounded from a bad 2019 with 2 knockout losses in a row to get a submission win in March of this year. Stylistically, really slick when he fights on the ground. Great scrambles, quick to pull in a sub. I don't want to undersell his stand-up. He's more than competent with his striking. He has good kicks, decent hands. He's not bad, but real Mike, I know you just did your Ancestry.com and found out a lot about yourself. So did Moicano, and unfortunately, it turns out that he is 50% George Gurgel. He's a guy that's just going to want to stand up. Yes, he's a guy that's going to want to stand up and avoid what could be his best option, especially in a fight like this one. Going up against Rafael Fiziev, I'm not sure. 8-1, 5 knockouts, 1 subs, 8,400 on DraftKings. I said 1 subs, Jesus Christ. $8,400 on DraftKings. You can't pluralize the Lone Ranger. Anyway, 1-3 since entering the UFC. He's won his last 2 straight. Extremely dangerous on the feet. He's actually the head Muay Thai coach at Tiger Muay Thai. Knockout power, all 8 limbs, all that good stuff. And he also, if that isn't enough, has a lengthy background, Sambo and Jiu-Jitsu. I don't want to oversimplify this, but it's tough to avoid when you're breaking down fights in under a minute. Like, Moicano would be wise to employ his ground game in this fight. He's probably the more well-rounded of the two, probably. Just like if you factor in everything that he knows, like, man, I don't know. I have a tough pick on this. I do have a lean. My lean is Fiziev. God, somebody help me out. I can't talk right now. Yeah, again, like we were just talking.
Fiziev.
Fiziev, Jesus.
He's like a sexy sparkling drink.
Dude, I swear I blanked out for a second because I couldn't remember his name and everything just left my mind. Anyway, the point is, like I said, he's got too much Gurgel in him, and it's cost him twice in his last 3 fights, and I think it's going to happen again here. Fiziev's the pick for me.
Yeah, this is going to be my bet for the show. Rafael Fiziev, super, super good stand up. Like you said, head coach over at Tiger Muay Thai, super deadly standing and with elbows. Definitely well rounded too, has a decent jiu-jitsu game, but I don't really think he's going to need it here. I think that Moicano is detriment to him is that he's just that Brazilian type that wants to just bang and come forward, and that ends up being a detriment to him. Similar to Jose Aldo. Jose Aldo loves to bang and come forward, and once he gets hit, he loves to take another one. I think that Moicano is going to put himself in a very bad position coming forward, thinking that he's going to be the nail or the hammer here. But Fiziev is just, his striking is no joke. I think he's also got 100% takedown defense rate, I believe, in the UFC already. There's pretty much, I mean, I think Moicano's fucked. So I'm going to be putting down the 1.55 units on Fiziev to absolutely devastate Moicano. I think Moicano is going to stand there, put his hands up, and end up taking big bombs right to his face, similar to Chan Sung Jung.
I think Anatoly Moicano doesn't use his ground game enough. I think he fell in love with his hands, as we've talked about previously, but he doesn't have like fight-stopping power. The all-around game of Fiziev, I've been utterly impressed with. No, we're not all being sold on his random matrix bend dodging a strike. It just all around, he was just impressive that fight. Although he's not a huge finisher either. I do see this going to decision, but I really like Fiziev here. I agree with Mike. Real Mike. Again, I need to clarify this stuff. It's getting weird. But I'm with him on that. I just think it's just going to be clear, like worst case scenario, 29-28. But like I think it's going to be very, very clear, which as long as Chris Lee, no, I'm spacing on the name. Either way, the judge that nobody likes. Here's hoping he's not judging. If he is, that is full disclaimer. That's not on us. But you will all see Fiziev win this fight. Next up, we have a fantastic co-main event, an utterly fantastic co-main event. It's Tony Ferguson -170 versus Charles Bronx Oliveira +150. Real Mike, sing to me about these lightweights.
Oh man, well, this is going to be a great fight. I can tell you that for sure. The transitions and the submission attempts and all the crazy shit that we're going to see in this fight is going to make it worth it. I'm a little upset that Tony Ferguson, this is the fight that he gets. He jiu-jitsu is his best thing. He that's what he relies on so much to win, and then he uses his cardio and his unique skill set. But I just don't, Bronx's jiu-jitsu is equal or better than Tony's. When that happens on the ground, it's not good. Tony's best asset is his ground game. Once it is equal to or great or equal to the other guy, then he's going to stand up. I really don't like Tony's stand up. I think that he definitely is diverse. He does a lot of awkward things, different things, but he's not a great striker. He's not the dude. So I really think that Ferguson is going to have a little bit of trouble here, and it's going to end up being a decision win for Charles Oliveira.
Let's stay on Tony Ferguson for a second. 25-4, 14 knockouts, 9 subs, going off for 8,600 on DraftKings against Charles Oliveira. 29-8, 8 knockouts, 19 subs, $7,600 on DraftKings. The one thing that I can't get out of my head in this fight, and a lot of people can't, is that Tony Ferguson just took a pretty bad beating not that long ago against Justin Gaethje, where like it's one of those beatings where, especially at his age, I think he's 36, 37, one of those two. And at that age, when you take a beating like that, it can change you. But with that being said, I think he is the better fighter all around. You're talking about their jiu-jitsu may be a wash. I don't know. Ferguson, it's not just his jiu-jitsu. Is when he's down there, he's striking the whole time. He's like when Clay Guida fought Diego Sanchez and Diego was down on his back, just throwing elbows the whole time, just doing everything. That's Ferguson. It's not just his jiu-jitsu you got to worry about. He's going to slice you up when you're down there. And on the feet, he's just a more creative striker. He throws from basically any angle. You don't know what he's going to do. He could roll towards you out of nowhere, snatch for a leg. He's just so unpredictable. So when making this pick, I can't bet that Tony Ferguson all of a sudden has like the Rocky 5 CTE and he's just going to have flashbacks of Justin Gaethje when he gets hit and, you know, Apollo Creed's dying or anything like that. I can't bank on that. So I am going to pick Tony Ferguson to win this fight. $8,600 on DraftKings. I do like him based on a few things. His finishing ability, like we said, out of 25 fights, 14 knockouts, 9 subs. If he wins, most likely a finish. But not just that. He is busy as hell. He is a DraftKings all-star when he fights. So I like Tony. If it's one of those situations, if you like Tony Ferguson for the win, then you like Tony Ferguson for the points. It's almost the same thing with Charles Oliveira. But I like Ferguson in this fight. So at $8,600, I like him on DraftKings.
Just quickly, Tony Ferguson will be 37 in 2 months, so
Okay.
he's right there on the edge. But in terms of my breakdown on this fight, I'm not going to say that the result of this fight is because of what Justin Gaethje did to Tony Ferguson. I'm not going to say that but what people aren't remembering is things like that have been happening to Tony Ferguson his entire career, like at least going back like post Danny, once he started like really standing and striking a lot more, dude can take a beating. He really, really can, especially in the first round. He is an incredibly slow starter. He almost always loses the first round. His entire slow starting of a round gave Lando Venata an entire UFC career. He's not great in the first round, and it's not a terrible thing if you could get it back, which he can. He always builds up and builds up and builds up, especially once he made that wonderful transition into 5-round fights. We're not talking about 5-round fights, we're talking about a 3-round fight right now. A lot of people are going against Do Bronx because they talk about he's a quitter. I used to be on that train, trust me. And I'm not saying he's no longer a quitter because he has all of these wins that have racked up, because a lot of them, the standard of competition is much lower. I'm willing to admit that. But even just in his very last fight against Kevin Lee, several times within the first and even the second round, he had an option to quit and he didn't. And Kevin Lee hits, volume wise, yes, down from Ferguson. Strength wise, power wise, substantially more than Tony Ferguson. And you talked about how Tony Ferguson, if he is down, he will throw from bottom. He'll go crazy. Rewatch Kevin Lee versus Do Bronx. He's throwing up like crazy. He's throwing up, trying to grab a leg. He's kicking from bottom. He's punching while he's down. Literally the only time he didn't was there was a stretch of time in the second round where Kevin Lee was 100% just laying on him and pressing like his face against his face so he couldn't get punched for like an extended period of time to get rest. And I've heard some people say bad things, the fact that like Kevin Lee was able to quote get him down so easily, but he got down Tony Ferguson not that difficultly as well. He's good at that. That's why so many people thought he was a future champion before we all know his mental lapses against everybody. Again, not disparaging Kevin Lee and his questionable tattoo choices. That's not who we're talking about. I'm not going to go down that road. But although I did say on Twitter, I do truly believe it's that Do Bronx beat him so bad that he got that tattoo, because there's
weird
really
tattoo.
It's not even done yet. It's like, I don't know.
What?
It's like it's half armor. I think it's samurai armor. I don't know, but
I've looked at it 100 times. I can't figure out what it's supposed to be.
Maybe when it's done, oh no! If he's trying to have a helmet, doesn't he understand it's supposed to go over your whole head, but not like the top knot?
But it looks like it has flames coming up underneath. It doesn't make sense.
Is that a secondary tattoo? Okay, we're sorry. We're spending too much time on Kevin Lee's questionable tattoo choice. He already had it before, but it's back. I was very impressed with Do Bronx in that fight. I've been a Do Bronx backer in the past. His striking looked phenomenal in that fight compared to what it has before. He's always had flashes, but now it's finally like cinching up. He actually has a little bit of defense. And so we talked about it pre-show. The last person to really have a submission attempt against Tony Ferguson was Danny Castillo. That was a long time ago, man. It's like really everybody is just trying to stand up with Tony Ferguson. He's willing to oblige. Like he'll strike with you, and then when he rocks you, that's when he lynches on submission. His striking is super unique. He throws the elbows, the standing elbows, everything like that, and he cuts you up. That's all fantastic. He's a slow starter. It's a 3-round fight. Bronx is a fast starter. He will put it on in the first round. And I'm sorry, you're not going to be able to like Imanari roll out of stuff when you're fighting Bronx. He's going to grab something, he's going to grab a neck, and his squeeze is insane. So I'm surprised at the dog money here. I know at some point in this week it was higher, and I would have loved to have a higher price, but I love the plus 150. So I'm actually picking Bronx here. I think he is on the ascent. I'm not saying Tony Ferguson is going off a cliff. I'm not saying he's done. I'm just saying he got up to that upper tier and found himself wanting. I always thought he was going to be tough for Khabib, but I'm sorry if Ferguson would have been able to do that to him. And I know it's different styles. I think Khabib would have destroyed him too. He's just not quite there. I don't know if that was an age thing, that he was there a couple of years ago, but he kept getting like not getting a title shot. But my bet on this is 1 unit on Bronx at the plus 150. Sorry, I have to make a bold declarative boom with a timestamp because stuff. Sorry. And I was the last one to talk on that one. That's right. So we're going to the main event. Yes, I talked all that much. That wasn't even the main event. At least I had a bet on that one. One of the ones that I decided to go crazy on. But okay, in the main event, we have Davison. I'm not going to try to pronounce it in Portuguese, but in English, God of War, Figueiredo, minus 300 versus Brandon, the assassin. I still don't get the assassin, baby. Plus 250.
It's a good nickname.
Mikey Gills, the main event, Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno.
Well, you can talk all you want about the co-main because I'm going to be actually pretty short with this. Right off the bat, I just want to say I'm pretty happy that we got to break down both of these fighters a couple of weeks ago, because with the week that I'm having, the month that I'm having at work, the less work that I have to do on fight cards like this, the absolute better. This fight comes down to basically one thing for me, which is Brandon Moreno, and it's the reason that I picked Royval against him. It's the reason I think you picked him as well. Moreno is so wild in exchanges that he's easy to get hit. And you can play that game against certain people. We didn't get to see how it would play out against Brandon Royval because of the shoulder injury, the Mel Gibson lethal weapon. But against a guy like Davison Figueiredo, if you're leaving your chin out there in wild exchanges the second the fight starts, 2 seconds after the fight starts, you might be asleep already. This guy has power. And not just power, he'll knock you down and he'll quickly jump on a sub. Figueiredo is a different animal. The only real worry I had about him was maybe a secondary weight cut so soon, but A, Moreno's doing the same exact thing. B, we already talked about how it just doesn't seem to be affecting people that bad. And C, I mean, John Anik, I heard him talk about it. He said that apparently Figueiredo has basically been living at the UFC PI and his weight's fine. He didn't let it get back up. So with that in mind, I'm just going to go ahead and pick Davison Figueiredo. We're talking about a guy with 9 knockouts, 8 subs on his record, 9,000 on DraftKings. He's going to be at the top of our card. I love him in this fight. I don't think it's going to be a particularly long fight. And I don't see a way that Moreno wins this. So Moreno at 72. I don't like him on the bottom end of DraftKings. Figueiredo at 9,000. That's my play.
Yeah, I'm pretty much going to echo the same thing. Pretty easy pick for me. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt and Figueiredo. His stand-up is absolutely devastating. He comes to kill people. Brandon Moreno is a little too wild, not enough well-rounded in his striking game for me to ever trust. That's why we picked him versus Royval. Fluke injury happened there, but this is not a fluke. Davison Figueiredo is going to whoop his ass. I think it most likely because he's never been subbed or knocked out, Brandon Moreno. I think that Davison Figueiredo is just going to do a 5-round just schooling on the kids. So I'm going to pick the Figueiredo by decision.
I love Davison Figueiredo. I've learned to love him after obviously he beat Joe B twice, and that was rough for us. We're big Joe B fans, but all the reasons, like some of what you said about the Royval. Yes, I was on Royval. That was my bet for that one. And honestly, I mean, I know it was a TKO and he lost, but I mean his shoulder was out. You can't defend strikes when your shoulder's out. And if he would have gone to who knows if it would have made it to go to the midway point through the between rounds, maybe they would have been able to pop back in. I don't know. And I don't know how functional it would have been at that point. I didn't know that was a possibility for his shoulder to pop out, but he was getting the better of the striking. He was landing more. He was landing cleaner. Moreno gets hit. And one of my reasons for going for Royval is Moreno's wildness and his possibility of getting in bad situations. Well, we've seen the type of grip, the type of lock that Davison Figueiredo has on people and just do that quick tap. He has it here too, but he also just lands. He just lands so much harder. Um, his power is ridiculous. Like I'm shocked by his power. He's a gigantic human for 125. It's utterly ridiculous. Literally, the only reason he's going to be able to bounce back and make this weight is because Dana White was basically like, "Hey, you get to live at the apex. Hey, we're going to feed you every single meal. Hey, we could weigh you every day. Hey, you could have like massages, sauna. Like, what do you want? We'll give it to you." Like they basically like gave him free reign to live the ideal scenario to make weight again. I do not know if they did that with Moreno as well. Actually do not. I probably should have looked into that, but I know that they did, at least for Davison Figueiredo. Yeah, I'm just one thing that I keep reviewing over and over again in my head is one thing that Moreno does. It's almost like an old school alpha male thing where he's going forward and he literally just like whips a fastball over the top, and as he does, he like bends his head down. I don't know why he does it, but he just throws with reckless abandon. But one thing that Davison Figueiredo is fantastic at is an uppercut right up the middle. And I just picture Moreno just looping over top with his head going down and at the same time Figueiredo connecting. I don't know if he's going to put him out or not, but I love Davison Figueiredo here. Minus 300 obviously is crazy steep, but I like him in this spot. I think he could get the finish. I, I really wish that the Moreno Royval fight went longer because it would have answered a lot of questions for me. And other than that, I mean, I pick is Davison Figueiredo. I'm not gonna go any further on it. There's no betting here whatsoever, so I'm not gonna keep going on it in any type of ridiculous way. But it's gonna be a great fight, honestly, all action packed. I'm looking at some props on to see if there's anything I want to play, but as of right now, nothing in terms of that. Now, Mikey Gills, if you will, our DraftKings breakdown.
All right, so we're gonna cross our fingers and we're all gonna say a prayer that that COVID doesn't ravage this one like it did last week. But again, all right, so we'll start off at the top of our lineup. Davison Figueiredo, 9,000. We just talked about him. This is an obvious pick. I believe in him. I believe in his power. I believe in his finishing ability. Like, this is his time. And like, again, I'm praying that this fight doesn't get canceled because I think this guy is going to cash out for just huge points on DraftKings. Next up, 8,900. I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm putting Tisha Torres in my DraftKings lineup. Like, I don't know. I may just be too hyped up about how awful her opponent looks, but when I see someone as unskilled and as fraudulent as Sam Hughes, it's very difficult for me to not pick a veteran like Tisha Torres. Like, historically, not a huge DraftKings scorer, but if she can't get a finish over this girl, she can't get a finish over anybody.
But little do you know that it's the season of Hughes, because like right now, Home Alone 1, Home Alone 2, Christmas Vacation, John Hughes wrote all those movies. For all we know, this is his daughter.
All right, fair enough.
I have no facts to back this up.
Okay, all right, that's fair enough. Next up, 8,800. We're going Sergey Spivak. Look, styles make fights, and Spivak's opponent seems almost tailor-made for Spivak to get in close and to go to work on him. Like Vandera, just too slow, too ineffective, and just I can't see him doing anything to keep Spivak off of him. It's heavyweight MMA, which means more finishes. I like Spivak for the win, which means I like him most likely for the finish. Next up, $8,600. I'm rolling Tony Ferguson. Let's go. Like I said a few minutes ago, like I have to see Tony as an over-the-hill, washed-up fighter before I bet against him. And I just don't see what Oliveira does stylistically just to keep Tony from just running away with this fight as it starts to go on. Like, I don't want to relitigate this whole thing. But again, Tony is a DraftKings monster. And when he wins fights, we're talking about a guy that finishes everybody. If he's going to win, it's most likely going to be by a finish, and I like him for the win. So therefore, again, I like him for the points. Next up, $7,700. We are rolling with Gavin Tucker. This is a tough pick for me because I do like Billy Q a lot, but when I watch the tape on Gavin Tucker, I think he's just good enough to nullify Quarantino's strengths. I like him for the win, and with his style, it means I like him for the points. I think he can throw a lot of those kicks. He's going to stay busy, and even if he doesn't get the finish, this could be one of those 3-round decisions that pays off huge. Last up, we talked about it earlier, and look, I get it. This is a punt play. This is the bottom of the DraftKings lineup. This is who do you like best out of the ones you don't like. This is Junior Dos Santos at $7,000. Hear me out. I am picking Cyril Gane to win this fight. Let's get that out of the way. But Junior Dos Santos is not Tanner Bozer. JDS is not Dontel Mays. And is it possible that we are just overhyping Gon? Look, I don't know. What if he starts getting boxed up and it turns out that he can't fight back? I said all this before. The point is that $7,000 is a price I am willing to pay to find out if any of that stuff is true. And again, if it gets to the second round and Gon just all of a sudden doesn't have a guy that's afraid of him, because Junior Dos Santos is a lot of things. He's not a coward. He's not going to be afraid of Cyril Gon. What's going to happen in the second and third round? I don't know. JDS still has the power to put anybody away, and he still has the style and the boxing to win a decision. All he has to do is avoid getting knocked out. He's not going to get submitted in this fight. $7,000. I'm here for it. So one more time, just going over it. Davison Figueiredo, Tisha Torres. God, it sounds so bad saying. Sergey Spivak, Tony Ferguson, Gavin Tucker, and Junior Dos Santos. Let's go.
Mike Gill's officially off the gain train. Sorry, I've been waiting like a minute and a half to say that.
Last pick at kickball. JDS.
I specified I'm picking him to win this fight. This is a punt pick.
No, sorry. I had to do it. It had to be done. Before we do the outro and we bid adieu, anything going on for you guys? Anything you want to say? We'll start with Real Mike. Anything going on?
No, just I'm off right now. I took the whole month off. Thankfully, I'm in one of the best unions in the world, so I get to spend time with my family, take care of my chickens, and begin my winter farm so we could feed the family. But I'd just like to thank each and every one of you for liking, subscribing, watching, and interacting in the chats, on Twitter, and everywhere else. We're always here for you guys, and our goal is just to win you money. So let's go.
I'm going to go ahead and say that all of the hours that Real Mike isn't working, I am working right now. I got home about 35 minutes before this show started, completely exhausted. But you know what? We're here for you guys. So like Mike said, thank you guys for listening. We appreciate every single one of you.
Well, we will be back next week for the final card of the year. UFC Vegas 17. That's Thompson versus Neal. Used to be a better main. Things fall out, but you know what? We'll have fun. Don't forget to subscribe to us on your platform of choice: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast Podcasts, RSS feed. Please remember to subscribe to us on YouTube for both the full-length shows and the tidbits that will come off later in the week. You got to like it. You got to comment. You got to share. You got to give us feedback. This is a relationship. This is a two-way street. Eye contact. Conversations are like tennis. You got to play with me. We got to hit it back and forth. So I want to hear from you. I will reply back. And with that, let's roll.